be led by Commissioner Louis Alford, our invocation by Westwood Baptist Church Associate Pastor Paul Davis.
Stand, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we're so grateful that we can come before you this very day, Father, that you've given as a gift to us. Father, we acknowledge above all things that you are greater than any issue, challenge, or problem before us, and that you're a God that is a source of all wisdom. So I pray for my brothers and sisters here who are servants to this county, Father. I pray today that you would give them wisdom that they could get nowhere else but from you, that by the power of your Spirit, Father, that you would guide their conversations, their decisions, their directions for this city that you have blessed so immensely in this county, so immensely for all these years. God, we thank you for the resources that you have continued to provide for us. We pray that we would be good stewards in all things, and that ultimately at the end of the day that we would give you all the praise and all the glory for everything that's done. We pray and ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Welcome, everyone. Look, I've got a large crowd here today of interested people, maybe leadership of Cleveland back here in the back. This time I'll turn it over to Mayor Davis. Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. And yes, Leadership Cleveland's with us today. We appreciate them sitting through our meeting to see how we operate, and then they're going to be going over to the city of Cleveland and see how that it shouldn't be done. Just kidding. We appreciate you all being here. A couple of things I wanted to mention. In talking to some of you since last week's meeting, I've picked up on a couple of questions about the ARP funding that was proposed last week. And like I told you, I'm not pushing it as far as a timeline, but I did want to go ahead and address some of the things that have been brought to my attention. Definitely don't want to be accused of holding the project up if there's questions out there. Last week we had actually met with finance and discussed a lot of the things before the full commission. And I didn't repeat them, and I don't think anyone else repeated a lot of those things that were discussed in that finance meeting of some of the things that they want to be done. A proposed plan, and if you would, Dennis, take this and pass it around. One of the things that we hadn't copied to you yet was the proposed plan from the 5 organizations. And so we've accumulated those, and they're coming around now. And you can read those for yourself, but it tells you what they're proposing to do with the money that is in the proposal. And keep in mind, once approved, before any money is given, the county attorney then will take this plan that you're getting in the next few minutes. And as the different organizations are approved, she will be taking that plan and making an MOU, writing an MOU for them to sign, which is where they're agreeing to abide by the plan, spend the money this way and that way and so forth. So that will happen at some point once people are approved. Another thing that was discussed a lot in the finance meeting was the development district. We've proposed that the development district be the administrator of this particular bucket, which is in the form of us granting it out. The development district administers grants throughout the region, or really throughout the state, but our development district does in this 10-county region. So they're very familiar with administering grants, CDBG grants and so forth for counties throughout the region and other organizations too, I believe. There was a lot of questions surrounding that contractual arrangement, so I asked the development district to attend today to explain to you what they do, what they would propose doing, and then answer any questions that you might have. Beth Jones, the development director, I guess is her title, was sick today and unable to be here, but Chuck Hammond's the assistant director is here to speak to us at this point. So Chuck, if you'd like, come to the microphone and tell them whatever you'd like to, and then take questions, please.
Okay. Well, my name's Chuck Hammonds. I'm with the Southeast Tennessee Development District. If you don't know what the development district is, we are actually a special purpose unit of local government. We are considered a county or a city under state law. And we are basically The best way to describe us is we are a staffing agency for local governments here in our region. If you need a historic preservationist to come in and help you do some tax credits, we have one on staff. We staff 26 planning commissions throughout our region. We have social workers. We administer the area agency on aging and disability. Is there something?
It is on, just maybe
Oh,
pull it up a little, there you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not used to talking into a microphone. But we work with all our local governments. We are currently administering and assisting 6 counties in our region, well, 5, y'all would be the 6th, with their ARP funds. So what we do is we come in and we help, usually for a percentage. I understand this may be for the housing bucket, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, for the housing bucket. So we would just charge like a flat 4% for whatever that was, and that would just be our administrative fee. We'd work with the local agencies you select and make sure that they're meeting all the requirements of the ARP requirements and all those rules and procedures. So, any question? And I'll take ridicule too.
You came to the right group, then yes, Mr. Crocker.
City feels and Habitat for Humanity, the amount is of the magnitude that we probably are going to give draws on that. And my concern is the reaction time of your organization. These people will be in the midst of construction. They don't have the luxury of a couple of weeks to get the okay from you all that the money was spent correctly. What is your anticipated time frame if, as an example, one of them got an initial draw of 100,000 or 50,000, the second draw is another 50, but they have to show the paperwork in order to draw the second one. What is your?
We try for a 3-day turnaround.
3 days, not no 2 weeks.
No, we're not the state of Tennessee.
All right. God bless you. You've answered my question, thank you.
Commissioner Rabbit.
Thank you for being here, first of all. And second thing is this, I want to give you sort of a what if.
Okay.
What if they are not following those guidelines? Then what happens? And then I have one more question after that, if you don't.
Well, in that case, we would work with them to try and rectify the situation. And if we cannot get it rectified to where it meets the compliance, then we would come back to you all and recommend you all as a body do something. It would be y'all's money, so y'all would have to do that.
Yes, sir. And one more is this, and the mayor didn't allude to this, but I want to, this is one of the things we talked about in finance the other day. He is going to sort of have a checklist of things, watchdog may be too more serious of a term, but a lesser term of just different stipulations that we might come up with commission and the mayor together, and he's going to submit a list. Is your organization prepared to do so, and can you work under some also some additional guidelines like that?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, and just so you know, when I say we staff planning commissions, that's our sole purpose. We take your all's plan, your all's zoning, and we just check to make sure it meets your compliance, it meets your plan. And if it does, then we recommend approval. If it doesn't, then we recommend denial. That would be on you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Winters?
You're familiar with the organization that we have here, with the mayor and the finance committee.
Yes, sir.
How do you see you all working with and including both of those units? The finance committee is our committee that works on the details, much of the details that you will be into. So between the mayor, they, and you, how do you see that plan working?
Well, I would communicate with everyone. I mean, it would be an open communication. I mean, I've talked with Mr. Blake, Commissioner Blake several times, and the mayor, we're in constant contact with him as well.
So take his scenario a little further. If there is such a situation that you're working on, Who do you go to and how do you move
Well, I
that
mean,
list?
it would depend on how y'all want me to. I mean, I can work through the mayor's office, or I can work through finance, or I can work through both. It's up to you.
You can work through both,
Yes, sir.
at our discretion and the mayor's discretion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Blake?
Commissioner Winters, and I guess everyone, what I was hoping that happened is that I was extending an invitation to him to be at the next finance committee on January 4th and get into the nuances and the details of how much, when, where, how, all that kind of stuff, put it in writing, and then send it to the mayor to negotiate and get it into an agreement. The big thing is the 4%, but on our side, where's that 4% gonna come from? Is it gonna come from each bucket, or, is it for all 21 million? All those kind of things be answered on January 4th and bring back a recommendation from finance to the full commission on the day-to-day kind of stuff, those detailed kind of stuff, those nuanced kind of stuff, things.
Mr. Bradford?
This may be for Mr. Blake or you, either one, but is it legal to take from those buckets the 4%? Or is that something that we have to do separately?
Yeah, Mayor, I think you'll agree. They clearly said that the administrative cost of granting out this money and appropriating this money, they understand, the U.S. Department of Treasury understood that we probably didn't have the resources and all the expertise perhaps, that's clearly something that we can pay for, the administrative cost of this whole 21 million.
Thank you.
Mr. Atchison?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask a question. You had mentioned when the organizations request to draw, they would have to fill out paperwork. And getting this 4% and doing that and making sure the paperwork is correct and everything, is there any site visits that you would make
Yes.
to these organizations?
Yes.
Because in my
Yes.
world, we get site visits also.
No, we do site visits all the time on all of our projects. We have a staff in community economic development of about 21 people who, and I myself go out and do site inspections as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
And I live here, so it's pretty easy to come home.
Commissioner Hall?
We've talked about several times in commission, the responsibility of whom is going to major understanding the facility, the problems that might come up as far as what if some of this money goes out wrong? Who checks that to make sure that everything is being spent the way it's supposed to be spent in your department? Is that going to fall under you, or?
That is us, sir. We would do that and make sure it's being spent correctly and within compliance. And we actually have a federal consultant on board that's an expert on this. We've used him in the past, Bob Moore. We have him on retainer to help us if we run into anything that's too complicated for us to figure out.
Is there someone in your department, for example, designated to make sure that that happens? I mean, make sure that all the rules and regulations.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's my biggest concern. I don't want to come down here 6, 8 months, 9 months from now. They say, no, you spent that money wrong, you're going to have to pay back $300,000. I
No,
want to
certainly.
make on the front end that we have all those bases covered.
We make sure you have all those bases covered on the front end. We have 5 project administrators, that's all they do, is check compliance.
Thank you.
Mr. Winters?
One other question about ARPA.
Yes, sir.
How far along are you in looking at their regulations and rules? And are we just now, we're still in the stage of trying to figure out some of all the details they'll have.
We have been working on it since it came out, sir.
So you feel like
I
you're.
checked the website there, yes, and talked to them.
Mr. Blake?
Just so you know, everybody, they're also working with other counties. I believe you said you got 4 or 5 other
We
counties
have 5
already.
right now, McMinn, Bledsoe.
So Bradley County is not the only county that's going to enter into an agreement with them with respect to the rescue funds. The other counties,
Bledsoe, Marion, Sequatchie, McMinn, May.
so they're going to manage their rescue money as well. So it's economies of scale working for us with that.
Mr. Hammons, this art may be new, but grants of this magnitude, et cetera, you guys are used to doing this, is what you do,
Yes, sir. We've been
correct?
doing it for
Whether it be
years.
federal or state grants, either one, you go through that, so it's not anything new.
No, we're currently administering the grant for y'all right now, the CDBG.
Exactly. I just wanted to, so everybody would understand that. Any other questions? Mr. Gordon?
Where's y'all's office at?
Our office is,
Y'all
lo-
located? Good.
our office is located in Chattanooga on Riverfront Parkway, right across from Austin.
Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to ask a question. These other counties, are they already committed or are they considering?
We have two committed, the others are considering, we have not gotten this, they are not nearly as far as you all are. They don't know where they want to spend their money yet.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Roberts?
Since y'all are in Chattanooga, is it possible that if we have a finance meeting referencing this type of money, that someone could always be available?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, we have to make it, like I said, I live here, so I'm always willing to come back at lunchtime.
Well, we don't always meet at lunch.
I know.
Let them know right by.
No, we are regularly out, we have folks out all the time.
Good.
Mr. West?
The nonprofits that are gonna get money are expecting to move quickly. How quick can you turn around and ensure that they're gonna be ready to spend that money in the way that we want? Timeline, if they, let's say January 12th, they have to make a commitment and put money down, and we agree on January 4th, that's the timeline. Is that time enough for you all to get geared to
Yeah,
deal with the?
To meet with them and get everything lined up? Yes, sir.
So turnaround time of actually approving, would you all approve, we'll approve money from here, and then you will share with the mayor directly that it's okay to
Yes.
move forward?
Yes.
And then, so that can be done in 48 hours, or?
Yep, like I said, we try 3 days. Unless somebody has COVID.
How long have y'all been doing this? And what other places have y'all done, I guess, before?
We're currently doing some ARP funding with Bledsoe right now, okay? And
But I'm
then
talking about like in the past.
in grants in the past, we have been in existence for 50 years. We've been doing this since 1969. And as far as we've worked with Bradley County, we've done water line extensions, we've done sewer line extensions to several of the schools. We worked with the city of Cleveland. We've worked with y'all in the past. We administered all the money for Barker, $128 million.
I believe that was correct.
Mr. Epson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say, the other buckets that we have, sewer, water, broadband, this would probably be the group that we would work with in trying to double that amount of money in those buckets.
Right.
As far as
Are you
grants.
going to use your ARP funds to try and match the state grants?
Exactly. And you would be this group we would
Yes,
work
we
with.
would.
I would just want to point that out to the commission.
We would. Now, we'll say, if you're, I know Volunteer usually uses their own folks to do that. We've not worked, well, we've worked with them in the past, but not on like a broadband expansion. Okay. But as far as all your utilities that are located in the county, we've worked with them quite
Thank you.
regularly.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
Thanks, Chuck, I appreciate it. And
Yes,
like you
sir.
said, he is a Bradley County, so that's a good thing. And to reiterate, and I think you all picked up on it, this is what they do all the time for us and other counties. They're created by the state of Tennessee. The state's divided into development districts all across the state. Ours happens to be the Southeast Tennessee Development District, and they get grants for us, City of Cleveland, almost continuously. Right now, they're finishing up the
Taylor School.
Ocoee Utility Sewer Project. It's, I guess, finished, but it's not closed out, is it?
Correct.
And all of these, even though CDBGs go through the state, they're all federal money. There's not a whole lot of difference. The biggest difference is this ARP came directly to counties, where normally it goes to state. When we start the grants, such as broadband and water and sewer, those grants, that money was the same pot of money, but it went to the state. And so we'll be joining forces with the state to do hopefully a much bigger thing. But hopefully that answers some more of the questions. One thing that was mentioned by finance is normally they do the monitoring, the administering, and then when everything is checked off, they send it to us, okay, it's time to write the check, and we write the check. Finance mentioned they wanted to go to finance first, and I have no problem with that, but you're talking about the 3-day window. Finance doesn't meet every 3 days, so they may keep it in that 3 days that Commissioner Crowell wants. You may have to start meeting every 3 days or reschedule to that timeline. But once the money is approved by you all, then it's in their hands to monitor it and administer it, make sure it's right. All we do then is write the check as it comes to us. That's the way CDBGs always work. I want to reach a couple things. You know, it's on the calendar for today. The Leadership Cleveland will get to hear some of this discussion again today. The cities is on their agenda. I think it's correct to say it's on their agenda today. And a couple things that's in their memo I just wanted to say to you because it applies to us too, especially in 2 buckets. You know, I told you that we have agreements with the city to partner on both City Fields and Habitat. This coordinated affordable housing initiative may include granting from both the city and county, 400 for City Fields, 300 for the Habitat of Humanity. So again, they are agreeing. They've not approved it yet. It'll be later today, but that's the unofficial agreement that we had worked out with the city. City Fields has already agreements in place to purchase approximately 15 rental homes and rehab or rebuild on those lots that would target the single-family homeowners. Habitat will be constructing approximately 15 homes or townhomes for single-family residents in the Foster Lane and 20th Street area, primarily targeted for first home purchases. Affordable housing is a critical area of investment for our community with extremely high price inflation and housing competition. There are many first-time home buyers and low to moderate home purchasers that cannot afford the initial cost to purchase a home, even though they can afford the long-term mortgage payments. These programs also include possible down payment assistance and assistance on many other facets of owning a new home. Not all of that comes under the definition of low-income housing, but it is all in the ARP booklet as approved uses. For both of these projects, time is of the essence, and they're ready to move forward with these projects immediately upon approval. And in your plans there, you've got the timelines from those individual organizations. Here's something I thought I usually fail to point out. With this proposal, we would take land and properties valued at approximately $600,000. Between Habitat and City Fields, it's $700,000 really, because we're doing 3. If you total them together. Anyway, taking the $600,000 one, that would increase asset value to approximately $3 million for both the city and county tax base. So when City Fields is rebuilding a neighborhood, they're adding to our tax base. That's another one of the many ways we grow our community in Bradley County. Here's what's in the memo from the city. City staff recommends approval of partnering with the county on this affordable housing initiatives and targeting $400,000 for City Fields and $300,000 for Habitat. The city will develop a grant agreement with both of these organizations to assure that all federal, state, and local guidelines are followed. So we're proposing to do the exact same thing with those 2 organizations on this side of the thing. I just want you to know what they're saying and addressing later today. Is there any other questions that may have come up?
Any questions of the mayor?
In the last week on this subject? I just wanted to please share an answer as quick as possible. I know there was a lot of questions about have we contracted with Development District yet. Development District is willing to work without a contract until we get one in place, but we'll contract with them as soon as you all give me the approval to move forward with it. But if there's any other questions comes up, let me know. It sounds like we're looking at January the 4th, and that's perfectly fine. Read all 5 of the plans to see if you're okay with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them, however many, and we can start moving forward with those. Minimal housing is an urgent need. That's one thing we can't say often enough in our community. And the various things such as mortgage assistance or utility assistance, various forms of minimal housing is very much needed in our community. If you don't have any other questions, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Reports from committees and/or districts. We'll start to my left. Commissioner Winters.
Mr. Chairman, 60 Highway is moving along at breakneck speed. It's signs up, slow down even before there's vehicles there getting us all ready. At the last meeting, we asked, I think, the fellow Commissioner Raper, asked ask if there was a key person within TDOT that we could contact for questions. After that meeting, I thought I had a guy. I think everybody has a guy. I thought I had a guy. But that guy has not been able to get the other guys to get back with me so I can share with Ms. Laura, the administrative assistant. Could I ask that you as chairman ask the individual that we have contact with locally to give us a contact person, particularly us in 7th, and I think you all in the 1st, and some other districts where 60 highway goes straight through our neighborhoods. And in my particular neighborhood, all the trees are down in Cabell Cove. In front, one house is going. The whole presentation of our community's changed. How we're going to get in, how we're going to get out, what's going to be happening with. My neighbors are asking me, I'm sure going all the way up 60 highway, their neighbors asking each other. We need to have a key contact person with TDOT that will share with your office, Mr. Chairman, and then pass on to all of us, so that each of us don't have to try to find our connections and go back to our constituents. You look at how many neighborhoods are on 60 highway, how many businesses are on that. If you come down that hill and look at what's happening there, it's totally restructuring and re-establishing communities, small communities. Neighbors are wondering, how are we going to get out at certain times of the morning? How are we going to get back in for the afternoons? So that's the type of information we need from the 7th District, and I'm sure from the 1st, and what's going to be happening a little later on as they get into that. But if we can build a plan that TDOT can share with your office, that can then share back with us, and we can get that and calm people down. I know TDOT will have their own communication. I remember one of my friends that sat in one of the commission seats that we put on to be a partner with TDOT. He was vice chair of that committee, and at the latter stages, he didn't know when they met. So he's my friend, we discussed that a lot. But and I understand TDOT has done great things for our community. I'm not downing them at all. But I'm saying we need to have a contact person that you can have, that can share with the rest of us if it's our district or any of the districts here that TDOT will be affecting. That you can have a key, you can have a guy. I'll give my guy to you and you can use it. But my guy gets back to me. We haven't been able to get TDOT to get back.
We'll work to get some set up chunks. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to follow up what Mr. Winters just said. The number of concerns I keep hearing are entering neighborhoods and houses and homes, exiting, and the appearance of what it's going to look like. And I understand their concerns. I've heard everything from signs to trees to different landscaping and so on. And the bottom line is this. I value their concerns. They are very good concerns. But we also, this is a great project. It's great for our community. And so I don't want it to have a sour note on the community, because we're trying to do something good. So his concerns that he just shared, I think that it would be good if we shared those with TDOT. Anyway, other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raker. That is noted. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This morning or this afternoon, you have a pamphlet in front of you titled A Time to Build. The SPCA has partnered with the Community Foundation for this new capital campaign. And today we have Ben Chandler here, Kathy Barrett, and Cheryl Dunson to give you an update as to how this campaign is going.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Thank you for allowing us to speak. And Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to be here today. As Commissioner Davis mentioned, today we're going to give you a comprehensive overview of our Time to Build campaign and an overview of the current challenges the SPCA is tackling right now. This is a $1.5 million capital campaign to raise money for funding the building of a new facility, which I am fairly certain that if you've been out there and seen what they're currently in, it's fairly obvious that they are severely limited on quality and capacity of care that they can administer right now. Also, is to establish an endowment to provide ongoing operational support. The difference between what they are given by the county or the contract is for the county and what they need to operate on an annual basis is very large, and so we have to make up that difference elsewhere, so we're trying to tackle that as well. But just a brief introduction. I'm Ben Chandler. I'm the Vice Chair of the Cleveland and Bradley County Community Foundation. I'm joined by Kathy Barrett, President of the Community Foundation, and Mrs. Cheryl Dunson, who is a member of the Board of Directors of the SPCA. The Community Foundation of Bradley County and Cleveland, we had an existing relationship with the SPCA, so this was a natural fit for us, but it is the first time in our foundation's history that we decided to partner with a nonprofit for a specific campaign to tackle a broad-based community need. And so Kathy and I, the rest of the board, are very excited and proud to be partnered with them and to be tackling this opportunity. And Cheryl is going to give you guys a quick update on some of the challenges the SPCA is facing from an operational perspective.
Okay, so today we're going to cover very briefly some general topics. The mission of SPCA, why we're embarking on this campaign, what we hope to accomplish, how are we working to accomplish our goals, public crowdfunding, private donations, and how the community can help us. So before we get into our mission, I wanted to share with you how I got involved with SPCA. I live off of Spring Place Road. Tim and Erica are my neighbors. I'm about 4 miles from the Georgia line. And so we have fairly large property ownership there. I have about 10 acres. And I found, by happenstance, a hoarding situation in my neighborhood. One thing led to another. I called the sheriff's department, and it was really a perfect storm where we were able to rescue 15 dogs and 9 horses. The horses eventually went to the University of Tennessee. But the mission of the SPCA, and a lot of people say, well, what does SPCA stand for? It's the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals of Bradley County, is to provide humane enforcement and sheltering for companion animals while providing compassionate animal services under the no-kill model equation. So what does no-kill mean? No-kill means we do not euthanize for spades. Unlike other animal control departments, they will euthanize for spades. We find a home for every animal that comes into our premises unless they have a physical ailment that cannot be cured, or they pose a threat to society because of their behavior. Our current live release percentage is 98%. 98% of the animals that come into our care find a home eventually. It may be 3 or 4 days, it may be 6 or 7 months, but they do find a home. As many of you know, in my previous life, I worked for the landfill management company, and every month I had a monthly operations report with our mayor. And in that report we went over everything from inspections by the state, any complaints that we had received, our monthly volumes, where waste came from. And one of the things that we talked about or shared with the mayor is how many dead animals we received every month. And you would be surprised to know that prior to Bradley County signing a contract with SPCA, we managed 4 to 5 tons of dead animals a month. When the contract was signed with SPCA, that number went down to less than a ton a month. So we are doing great things with the SPCA. As you can see, our current facility is very inadequate. The picture on the right, bottom right, is where we house our feline population, our office, which is literally the size of a closet, and where all of our laundry takes place. The big building above that is where we house all of our canines. And then, as you can see, we have pop-up kennels when we don't have runs available for the dogs. It's a lot of work for our employees because they're having to pull double duty. We can't allow our dogs to run free in runs. So they have to walk the dogs in the morning, walk the dogs in the evening, and our cat population does not have the ability to fraternize or socialize with one another. It's a very challenging situation because the facilities were not meant to house animals. We have poor ventilation, we have poor heating and air conditioning, and so that's why we are desperately in need of a new facility. This is a great quote from our Director of Operations. No animal should have to live its life in a pop-up kennel until it's adopted. And that's our current reality for some of the animals that we house. A pop-up kennel is one that folds up and pops out. So a lot of our animals are kept like that until they can be adopted. I wish this was bigger, I apologize, but just to give you a snapshot. On January the 1st, 2020, we had 201 animals in our care. At the end of that year, we had actually taken in 1,238 animals, with 98% getting a new home. I think that speaks volumes for what we do on a regular basis, day in and day out. Currently, we have 180 animals in our care today. That includes fosters, that includes cats on the premises, dogs on the premises. We really only have space for about 30 dogs and 25 cats. So we depend heavily on our fosters, and we depend heavily on our transport program, which allows us to move animals to places that have stricter breeding laws and stricter spay and neutering laws. All right, I'm going to talk about an issue that's near and dear to my heart, but the cost of animal care. This is a monthly average, and if you take the fact that it's $239.50 to totally vet a cat, and that means to care for it, to vaccinate it, to microchip it, we are looking at $296,501 if everything that we took in was a cat. We receive approximately $206,000 a year from Bradley County. We're very grateful for that funding, but we have so much more to do. Our average annual budget is about $350,000 a year. So we're very dependent on donations that we get from people that give on a regular basis. Every month we get donations from these people. And so that's why the endowment is a key part of our campaign. So with a new facility, what do we hope to accomplish? That we'll be able to provide more services. I've heard the County Commission talk about animal control. There is no way that we can provide animal control services right now with the facilities that we have. We would be able to house more animals. We'd also be able to have a clinic, a veterinary clinic on site where we could perform our own medical treatments with a vet. Right now we have to transport those animals off campus, so it's very time consuming and it's very costly because we're having to pay third-party services for a vet. I'm going to let Kathy talk a little bit about the endowment, and because we have some really good news on that particular front.
We do. So Cheryl and I had the opportunity to petition the court on an endowment that the SPCA received, and they are going to allow that to be the start of an endowment for SPCA to provide that operational cost on an ongoing basis. And so it's going to amount to about $280,000 to $290,000 to start that endowment, and that will provide ongoing income for them every year to operate. And we know that a new facility will cost more to operate, but that will help cover some of those additional costs. I'm happy to share with you the design of the new facility. And so if you want to look at this floor plan, what you're seeing there on the left-hand side are about 75 dog kennels, and each of those dog kennels has an outdoor run that will allow the animals to get the exercise and the fresh air without being a time-intensive endeavor for the staff. And that's one of the things that Cheryl talked about they're dealing with right now. There's also an indoor run, so on bad weather days, when the dogs can't be outdoors, they'll still have that opportunity. It also gives folks an opportunity to spend time with the animals and get to know them in an indoor facility, and so that will add to that as well. On the right-hand side, we'll have about 35 cat kennels for the cats, but we'll also have 2, we're calling them cat colony rooms, but it's like a cat playroom. So the cats can socialize together, and that will be so much better for the cats. They are social animals and like that opportunity to be together. And so we'll have that. We'll also have on-site medical room for animal care there at the facility. We've got 2 meet and greet rooms so folks can come in, get to know the animals, figure out which of these animals is the best match for them and their family, and then make those selections. There are private adoption rooms, private surrender rooms for those folks needing those services. So it's just going to add to the ability of the SPCA to serve the community. There are really 2 major reasons why we feel like this facility is so important to the community. And the first of those is, in order to get these animals adopted, we need a nice place for people to come, meet the animals, get to know them, and then choose that best match for them. And then the second reason that we think it's so important, we've got the best qualified staff working for the SPCA currently that we've ever had. And we've got some dedicated volunteers that are giving of their time to take care of these animals. And we need a nice place for them to do their very best work. And so those are the 2 reasons we feel like it is so critical to have this facility now. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ben to kind of finalize the presentation.
Thank you, Kathy. So the campaign is being approached in 2 different manners. One, we wanted to give folks an opportunity, no matter what their giving capacity, to be able to do that in a quick and efficient manner. So we launched a GoFundMe page. It's a timetobuildbc.com. So all of you have the handout in front of you. If you simply scan that QR code with your phone camera, it'll take you directly to that page. Whether you give us $5 or $5,000, it doesn't matter. All the help it goes directly to the campaign, and we sincerely need the help. The second, we have been having private conversations with individuals that have given us donations that are interested in naming opportunities, naming a dog kennel, naming a cat kennel, naming specific parts of the new facility, and that campaign is currently underway and it's gone very well. I am happy to report that campaign to date, we've raised over $600,000. And that's a step in the right direction, but we're $900,000 away from our final goal. So we appreciate the opportunity to come and to present an update to the commission, and Kathy and Cheryl and I are available for any questions if you have any.
Have any questions? Mr. Arnold?
Yes, just one quick one. You said 900,000.
Yes, sir.
You've raised.
No, 600,000.
600, sorry,
Yes, sir.
600,000. Are you going to extend that for a period of time, or is it going to be a cutoff date, or just constant?
Well, sooner the better, but no, there is no cutoff date. We will cross the finish line at some point. We hope that's soon, but no, there's not a hard cutoff.
So how much, the building itself that you're talking about, that $1.5 million you're looking at?
We've gotten several estimates, and yes, it's probably going to be close to eating up the full 1.5 million. We're hoping that the cost of materials continues to come down, but just don't know this day and age.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pete?
The cost of materials actually last Tuesday went up 8.9% due to Canadian tariffs, and steel is also at an increase. So what is the estimated time do you think it will take you to get the rest of your campaign? And then is that 1.5 actually reasonable considering all the increases and the continued increases we get? It kind of looked like around a $2 million facility to me.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that the vast majority of the square footage is that dog kennel, and that's a very basic building. So more than half of the facility is going to be kind of comprised of something that's very basic in nature. But no, there's no time frame. I can't imagine, and I would not recommend us launching on the build without having the funds and the project fully paid for. So, and I think Cheryl and Kathy would agree.
So when you get your estimates, it'll be closer to the time of you getting at least close to 1.5 and then see if it's increased any, because that would have to be a commercial structure, so it's gonna have to be out of CMUs or at least steel and metal structure.
Yes, ma'am, yeah, we would wait until we're within striking distance of that goal before we got geared up.
Mr. Crown?
Do you have the land donated yet for the location?
No, sir.
So you have no, so the land will be an additional, well, it should be donated hopefully, but it will be on top of the 1.6.
We hope
Is
so.
that included in the overall 1.5?
Yeah, like I said, we've received several estimates, and a lot of those are based on material prices that are as of today. But yes, sir, we're hoping for a donation of a piece of property that requires minimal site prep work.
What size site are you looking for?
Based on our conversations that we've had, I think minimum we'd like to have is about 5 acres, and that would give us plenty of capacity to grow.
Thank you.
Commissioner Arthur?
You asked the same question
Okay.
I want to ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
So how long is the GoFundMe page, how long has that been up? How long has this drive been going?
So that opened up October 5th.
Okay.
And GoFundMe will allow you to keep that page up for 12 months. So it will have to
So-
come down October 5th
So
next
roughly
year.
in 2 months, we've raised
Yes, sir.
$600,000. Okay. Just kind of want to see how quickly we're moving.
That's right.
Mr. Cry?
In my previous life as an appraiser, I did a lot of appraisals on land that was being donated and contributed. Are you in a position as a nonprofit to get a value on the land to give to the person that potentially will donate it so they can take it off their taxes?
We are, we're a 501c3.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pete?
I just have one more question. You mentioned that you couldn't do animal control right now at the facility you're at, but if you had the new facility, do you foresee ever being able to take on animal control at that new facility?
I would, yes, I would hope so, but obviously we're gonna need more money with which to operate. We can't do it with $206,000 when our budget right now is $350,000 plus. We are very dependent on donations. We have a great staff that are actively writing grants to help us. But I think at some point in time, if the county wanted us to assume animal control responsibilities, I think there's a cost that comes with that. But if we were able to build what we've shown you, I think we would be in a much better place to do that. Yeah.
Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question also. If you would to assume animal control, what kind of, have y'all talked about how much more that would cost to, or has that been any discussion on that?
No, not as of yet.
Thank you.
I will say that our current director of operations worked for McCamey Animal Center in Chattanooga and is very familiar with those type of services. So I think if and when the county approaches us about animal control, once we've got this facility built, we have the talent and the expertise among us to properly address those costs.
Okay, thank you.
One question. You see the commercials on TV that say ASB
Yeah,
sale.
that's a great one.
Would you clarify that there's a
Yes,
difference?
you know,
Because a lot of people tell me they're getting money already.
yeah, we don't get a dime from the national organization. And, you know, hindsight being 2020, I wish I had been on the board in 2013 when this organization was created, because we never would have called it the SPCA of Bradley County. We don't receive any funding whatsoever. We are totally dependent on what we get from Bradley County and what we get in donations and grants. Thank you, that's a great question.
That needs to be noted, I believe. Mr. David?
They also are taking donations to rename the facility. So if someone wants to make a sizable donation, then that can be a naming opportunity, because we're open to changing the name. similar to McCamey and Chattanooga.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
Pretty sure Commissioner Blake said that he was gonna do that.
Well, I was just asking Commissioner Davis, if that's what
Yeah,
he's got.
I like your sidebar conversations on that way.
Any other questions to either the foundation, Cheryl, or anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming. That's all.
Anything else?
That's all, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Mason? Thanks, sir. Commissioner Slater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to place on the voting agenda for next Monday, December 20th, a resolution allowing us to move forward with granting ARP funds to City Fields in the form of $400,000 and Habitat in $300,000. While I understand there's still many nuances that need to be worked out, I think this will show our commitment to these two organizations, that we are aligned to supporting them, and it allows them to plan what their next steps will be in going forward.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Mr.
What's
Thomas?
wrong with the other organization?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with the other organizations. I'm not sure their timeline is as quick as these two are, and I'm sure there'll be time to discuss the other three organizations at a later date going forward.
Any other questions? Mr. Pete?
I agree with those other three. They can hold off for now, and I'd like to get in depth in a few of those anyway. And Habitat and City Fields, they've been vetted for many years and have established vetting practices as well as the Caring Place. I just looked back there. I wish we could give her all the money right now. But her timeline is not as critical as Habitat and City Fields, and we're getting matching funds from the city for that. So I do see the need to move on with those two as quickly as possible, and then move on with the other three in January.
Any other questions? Thank you. Commissioner Slater? Commissioner Boyd?
Fifth District doing well, but I would like to recognize Julian from the Bank of Cleveland.
Glad you're here, Mr. Sullivan. Good job. Commissioner Thompson? You good? Commissioner Crichton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Education Committee will not meet on Wednesday. It'll be rescheduled after the new year. The reason for that, there's been a significant illness in one of the departments that was going to be a part of the presentation. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pete?
I just have some kudos for Tim Mason again. He's always cleaning up our neighborhoods, so I appreciate the hard work that he does.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mason. Commissioner Blake?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things, to the, rescue money. Commissioner Slater, those resolutions, you're gonna have one for, there are gonna be two different resolutions, right?
Correct.
You'll have
They'll
one for
basically
City Fields and one for America, or Habitat.
correct. They'll basically say the same thing, but the names will be different.
So, I agree that it's a good thing so that they can, start planning their spreadsheets and stuff like that with a number in their mind, and then be ready to, come to finance and answer, more detail specifically of, questions and get a better understanding on that. So, Lori, if you would, extend an invitation to, the Director of City Fields and Director of Habitat, for the January 4th finance, if you would, I appreciate that. Next, Mr. Chairman, quick update on the tire situation. You probably saw the newspaper, and I appreciate the banner covering this. More sites are being uncovered, and it's a shame, I think. It's kind of stating the obvious, but I did see where some people got caught, so that's a step in the right direction as well. So we'll just continue on that. You saw where they're over at Hillcrest, and we're going to have to get creative on how we get those tires out of there, but rest assured we will. Mayor, real quick, a good friend of mine, lady at church yesterday, asked me about booster shots again. I told her I would find out, so I'll take this opportunity. Do they have to make an appointment? It's at the health department, right? You can get your booster shot for it.
I think you can get them other places, but the last time when someone asked, I checked that day on the health department, and they said you don't have to have an appointment, but they suggest.
And you can get it for both the medicines or the
Now, they at that time only had Pfizer, so that varies too.
only Pfizer.
But I think other people that, wherever you might have gotten your original, probably have them.
I'll let Ms. Ballard know. Last, Mr. Chairman, I was remiss if I didn't mention, you all saw the news this weekend, the tornadoes. We know what that's like. We've been through it before. My wife's family is all headquartered in Bowling Green. All her cousins, aunts, some we know, some we don't know. They're all in that area, so my heart goes out to them. We'll probably be heading up there this weekend, but keep those guys in mind. We've been through it. And you guys all saw that looked like a bomb hit that place, so, right there. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pete?
Speaking towards the tire comments that you made, can you find out from the city of Cleveland, I know that they had a special task force that they had designated a year or two ago to come up with some kind of plan, and I don't know if they followed through with that, or if they created a plan, they were gonna try to do something at the tire stores to sticker them, to see where they come back to, but of course, I'm not sure if any of that ever came to fruition. If you just get an update and see if they still have that special task force on tires and what their
I'll follow up with that.
remedy was. Thank you.
I've asked about that before. Follow up. Mr. Offer?
It was typical of talking about tires. I was on my way here this morning, and I happened to be coming through Lee College, and I see this old truck loaded down with old tires. It was all I could do to not follow that truck and see where they were headed. But, of course, I didn't have time at the time. But I'd like to just make it, people in the public could help us out a lot on this tire situation. If you see old trucks and things in the areas that you wouldn't think they should be with a load of old tires or something, it'd be a good idea to kind of halfway try to check up on them. But anyway, I was tempted to do the tires, to follow that guy. But the second district's doing well. I'd like to ask Bristol, Chairman, I would like to either have a something that would let us to keep the commission more informed on what's going on these buckets and things. I've voiced several times my opinions. I would like to have a person from the commission to be on the group or whatever when we discuss these buckets with these outside organizations, that someone on the commission is with that person or with the mayor or with the assistant mayor, to at least try to help us keep more informed as to what's going on with these group meetings, rather than we get it on a Monday morning before we have a meeting on something like that, and it shows all the figures and things. I'd just like to be able to put in a commissioner with that group, so just to be able to help us more and be more informed.
So you'd like to have a representative that works with the mayor's office with the assistant when they meet with whatever mayor's group that they sit in on the meeting?
Right. Do we need a official notice on something like that, or is it something that we could work out within the group?
In other words, do we have to vote on something like that, or can I name someone and then work with the mayor's
Well, I was
office?
gonna say, I think that'd be a question or a
Yes.
comment to address to the mayor.
Mayor, do you see any issue with that, working with us on that?
No problems here. The next meeting I scheduled to work on an ARP bucket, I will contact Lori and have her to ask for whatever to be there. It can't be but one, though.
Yes, right, I understand that. So I'd ask you, Chairman, to announce, maybe name one person, then maybe if that person can't give it, have an alternate.
Okay.
Just two people, but never more than one at the meeting.
Okay.
Other than that, second district's doing well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Hughes?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Winters touched on a lot of things that I had to talk about, which was the gauntlet of Highway 60 at this point. But I will say that the committee that he was talking about, at one point, I was placed on the committee myself. However, I can honestly say I've never received an email about a meeting, and I don't know if that's dealing with the pandemic that hit about the same time or what. I will use that as an excuse, as the pandemic, but I really don't know. So, that's all I have.
I will try to have someone that we can reach out. Thank you, sir. Mr. Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd like to speak a little bit about Highway 62 and try to offer some information. I had worked with some constituents out there on Highway 60 in the years past and numerous times, and I have all the contact information of the supervisors and things that are over this district and Highway 60. And always remember too that, you know, you can always go to the top. You can go to the House Representative Dan Howell. He's chairman of transportation, and he will, you know, if you have a big issue or something like that and you need some, you know, some contacts or something like that. But I'll be glad to share that with you. And Commissioner Blake's comments about the shots and the boosters, and I don't care to share this information because I just received my booster. I had a Moderna with the health department. I got at the Publix, it does the boosters. I didn't have to pay anything for it. My wife got her Pfizer through the health department and got her booster at Cherokee Pharmacy. So you just got to call around the pharmacies. And they'll be glad to tell you what they offer. And it's pretty simple. You don't have to, you know, have an appointment or anything. Just walk in. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Blake?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I might get a little emotional talking about this tornado. We have to ask that last bullet point. I saw, and I'm sure you did, that the audit, I guess, is out because our mayor, the circuit clerk, Mr. Galen Miller, had a clean audit. So I was wondering if that, I didn't see there was on the website or anything. So I anticipate that audit coming any day now.
No, the audit's not out. Some elected officials are really reporting on their exit interview, but the audit's not out yet. It should be soon.
Mr. Peake?
Yes, I forgot to ask, on the GoFundMe for SPCA, was that 600 mainly raised from GoFundMe or private donations, or do you know?
It's a combination.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would like to take this time to congratulate Commissioner Alford. His son, Mike Alford, was named athletic director at Florida State University this past week, which is a huge accomplishment. And so I'm asking for Seminole tickets. He told me today that his son hadn't even got him tickets yet, so I'm ready to go to Tallahassee whenever we go. I'll drive, whatever you need me to do.
Are you implying that they're gonna start winning now?
You won't get any tickets. Okay, moving into we don't have any agenda. Any communication from the audience would like to speak to us? Okay, great. Announcements, next meeting, voting session, Monday, December 20th at noon here at the courthouse. Remember, that'll be our last meeting until we come back after the first of the year, so if you're not here, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays for the rest of this remaining time. Upcoming events, Prospect Elementary Choir at the trustee's office at December 14th at 9:45. And Wreaths Across America, December 18th at noon at the Veterans Cemetery. We are adjourned.